Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tower of Babble Game of Thrones breakdown, or as I like to call it for this week, Clue Game of Thrones edition. I'm joined again. I'm Julian. I'm joined again by Dan. For those who are just joining us this week, again, we only cover the show as a show, so don't worry about that, and we're not going to spoil anything past this week's episode. But we will spoil everything up to this week's episode, obviously. So,
and including this week's episode.
Yeah, including this week. So, last week I said that it was very much, there's a lot of table setting, just in general for the first episode, which is understandable. But this week they set the table and then pulled the tablecloth right out from underneath it right away, and we've already got some big stuff happening. It's only episode 2, so that's probably a very good sign for this season, if nothing else. So from this point forward, spoilers. Okay, ready? All right, still with us. So Joffrey's dead. That's great. So
I think the consensus is that it was too fast and not painful enough.
I don't know about that. He choked to death. Would you rather have him stabbed? Like, I don't see what's better way of...
I don't know. He, as one of the most hated characters, it was still a good way for him to die. I'm happy with it. But...
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that way of thinking. I think he died quite painfully. He cried like a little baby, crawling out for his mom. Some people were saying that they're kind of mad at the show for trying to make us feel bad for him as he was dying. And I can see that, but like, I still didn't. Like, maybe I'm just cold, but like, I didn't feel bad for him.
But that's how he would act if he was dying. You don't have. I didn't feel any sympathy for him. No.
Mm-hmm. So let's just try to get rid of everything else that happened in the episode, and then we'll come back to that for the last thing, because I have a few theories and that kind of stuff. Like, I think it was Colonel Mustard in the library with what are one of the weapons in Clue? A knife, I guess. Are those one of them?
Lead pipe.
Lead pipe. With candelabra? Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll start. I don't know. I can't remember what the first scene was, but we'll start at Dragonstone with Stannis.
Okay.
Anyway, so we have. I guess it's kind of reminiscent. I guess maybe season 2, the premiere first episode where they were on the beach and they were burning the 7 signs of the old gods, or
the new gods.
The new gods. Yeah, there's too many gods. It's hard to keep track of. So now they're burning people alive. In this case, it's Stannis's brother-in-law.
Yep. Sorry, Axel Florent.
Okay, and then we finally got to see his wife again. What's her name? Stannis's wife.
Selyse.
Which she's pretty crazy, but she's not been on the show very much. So that happens. There's the whole. We get the typical conversation between him and the Hand of the King. Davos, about him, making mistakes. Every episode, they're in it, they have one of those conversations. So that's kind of getting a little old, but I guess what can you do?
That's what Davos is there for.
Yeah, just tell him you're making lots of mistakes. So that's followed by pretty much the most awkward dinner scene you could imagine. You have Selyse, who's nutty as a bag of hammers. That doesn't make any sense.
That's definitely not a thing.
Nutty as a bag of hammers, because Nutty's a bag of nuts, like a cashews.
Let's just move on.
Okay. And Stannis, who's again pretty I guess pissed off, bored. He just seems so just not
uninterested.
Yeah, just in life, he just seems uninterested in life. You wouldn't be surprised if you found out he killed himself at some point. You know what I mean?
Well, he's uninterested in his wife and her ramblings about the Red God. He was never a religious man. He's a very practical man, but now he can't help but bear witness to the power of the Red God. So he has to kind of
And we'll come back and touch on that the power of the Red God later. I have some theories as well. So anyway, so he's talking about her daughter. I can't remember her name now offhand, but the one with the scales on her face.
Shireen.
Saying that she's sinful. Anyway, Stannis obviously isn't completely cold, says telling her you won't hit her. I guess that's...
Well, yeah, he loves his daughter. He obviously does not love his wife very much.
No. But they end up sending, I guess, Melisandre to go talk to her.
for some reason.
Yeah, I guess to convert her or something.
Yeah.
But she's a smart girl, clearly. She reads a lot. But I think it was kind of a nice scene where her kind of just like, she wasn't going to fall for Melisandre's sweetness or bittersweetness, you know? But anyway, like that's just kind of catching up on them. We didn't see them last week.
The only other thing to note there is that they were the people that they burned were being burned because they worshipped the new gods, but not the red god. But they were also being sacrificed. They weren't just being punished for that.
Oh, heretics.
So it wasn't clear why they were being sacrificed. Well, Melisandre keeps saying that there's power in death, and that's how you sacrifice to the red god for a reason.
Okay. I mean, well, then maybe that will play out later. I guess we'll see. So then we'll move to the Dreadfort. So this is the first time we've seen it on the show in an official capacity. We've been there before, but we didn't know where it was. Starts with a hunting scene with Ramsay. So someone I'm not sure where I heard this, but I think someone said something about how they added this girl into the scene, who isn't from the books, I believe, Dan, or can you correct me there?
There's a couple girls there that with Ramsay.
But the one that's hunting with him.
The one that, Miranda. Okay. She was in last season as well.
Okay, just for a little bit, or just...
There was a point where her and I believe the blonde girl from that scene both were seducing Theon, you know, and they got him going, and then they went and cut his junk off.
So anyway, what I understood, I'm not sure, this could be wrong, but that they added her into that scene to make it less like violence-y against women.
Probably, yeah.
Which kind of, I guess, makes sense. They don't like to do a lot of that kind of stuff. They don't shy away from violence, but when it comes to women, I think it's just a little bit more touchy, which I get, but it just still, you know. Yeah, again, hunting with like a person is not surprising, I guess, when you're talking about Ramsay. Man is the most dangerous prey or whatever. But I guess I don't really see the point of the scene at all. Really, I guess we already have.
You already know that he's.
We already know that exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the scene? I don't know. To reference dogs for the first time first of two times in the show. Like I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's just that like Theon's not his only play toy. Like he just is like that with everybody. That girl, was one of his allies, and then he just was done with her. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think the scene following with Roose coming back to the Dreadfort would have actually been stronger, having not seen Theon in the previous scene, the hunting scene. Just because I think the how do I put this? I think you could kind of see where that was. If at the end of last season, you kind of could predict what was going to happen with Theon coming into this one, having the whole Reek thing, right?
Yeah.
That was not a big surprise, but having seen how far that he's gone, that's a little bit more surprising. And to start it off by having the scene where he's shaving him would have been, I think, more powerful, having it come without
it would have been
having seen him earlier.
Completely changed Theon.
Yeah. But other than that scene with the shave was great. The tension was palpable.
Absolutely.
What else? So what did we learn at the Dreadfort? That there is the Ironborn hold somewhere. That's important. Moat Cailin.
It's a little part of Westeros called the Neck, where it all where the waters kind of come in. So it's a really thin area of land, and then the Neck is the only way to get past it. So it's an important stronghold between the north and the south. Okay,
and the Ironborn hold it. We really haven't seen it. Have we seen any of the Ironborn? I guess this season. I don't think so.
Not yet, no.
So that I think I wouldn't be surprised to see them next week. Although who knows?
I'm not sure if we will. Actually, I don't know. Yara said that she was on her way to save Theon last season.
Yeah.
And out of the other Ironborn, they're I don't know if there are any real main characters. They're just around.
That's true. I guess you'd just be dealing with a bunch of men.
It depends where Ramsay ends up. Yeah. The next couple episodes, he'll be heading down there. So
they could cross paths.
Yeah.
What else do we learn? Okay, it's notable is that this is the first time we've seen Ramsay and Roose Bolton together, and he's officially called him his bastard son. For those who are still might have been confused, even though it was made pretty clear a while ago.
Right.
Did Bolton have to marry one of the Freys?
Yeah, that the fat lady he married.
Okay.
And he said that he married her because he was promised her weight in gold and silver. So he was so satisfied.
That's funny. Okay. So you can really see that Bolton has like a disdain for his like insane bastard son.
Yeah.
Reminds him a couple times that he's not a Bolton, but does kind of offer it as a carrot that, you know, you could be a part of the family if you do, you know, as I ask. You also know that Ramsay lied to Bolton when he told him that he offered Theon as a trade. I mean, you could kind of say that he didn't, but sending his
dong
in a box, it doesn't really, you know, like that's not really gonna do well for diplomacy. You know what I mean? Either way, there's still I like that. Even though, he listens to his father, he still does what he wants.
Yeah. And Roose knows the value of Ramsay.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want him as a son. He's using him for his own games.
And we also learn that Roose also learns that Theon and Bran and Rickon, Bran and Rickon are still alive somewhere. They don't know where. They're kind of a few steps behind, I guess. Obviously, Bran is beyond the wall, so a little bit out of their reach, I think. Meanwhile, you have, I guess, where's Rickon going? He's going to...
Rickon and Asha are on the way to Last Hearth. It's the home of the Umbers. It's one of the furthest north.
Okay. And would they... So we don't know much about that, other than, you know, if Roose is the Warden of the North, right, you would... assume that they would have to be somehow like the. So where were they going again, Dan?
Last Hearth. So the Umbers would have to pay homage to Roose Bolton
if they knew that he was there. So maybe they wouldn't. I mean, maybe because a Stark was still alive, which they don't know. They might still pay side with them. Well, we're not sure at this point, but
that's what they said. They said that Ramsay said that if the North knew those boys were still alive, they would rally behind the boys, and that Roose wouldn't be the Warden of the North anymore.
That's true. So that I think. Last week's episode really set a lot of things up. This week's episode really sets things up for a lot of intrigue in lots of different places. So now we have something a little bit more interesting going up north. We have something a little bit more interesting happening down south. Of course, we didn't. Again, I think we'll get to that. And I'll touch on that in a second with the people we didn't see today. But we'll move on a little bit. So Bran, north of the Wall, as we said. Is warging with Summer, I guess apparently for a little bit too long. We learn a little bit more about warging, that you can spend too long inside of an animal's head and then forget that you're a person, I guess, is the idea.
Yeah, because you're sharing it, you'll become more and more the animal, and you'll no longer be that person.
So
and it's tempting for Bran because he doesn't have legs, so it's tempting for him to be able to run and jump and hunt and do all those things, plus eat.
That makes sense, although you can't eat. Like, it doesn't sustain you as a person.
But it feels like you are when you're in it.
That makes sense. So this is kind of the whole scene is kind of odd. So then they move, then they're kind of continue to move, and then they find, what kind of tree are those, Dan?
They're called werewoods.
The werewood tree. So I'm not clear exactly, does he warg with the tree in some way?
I mean, it's not really clear. He touches the tree, and he gets some visions from the three-eyed crow that they've been...
So it says someone says or something says, look for me beneath the tree, tells him to go north. We see like you said, see the three-eyed raven again. We see White Walkers, as well as the shadow of a dragon over King's Landing. Although I guess it's a vision. He's never been to King's Landing, so it would just still be a vision. But so yeah, like that whole thing. You also see it. You also see, what else do we see? We see.
Well, you see a couple images of Ned Stark sharpening a sword. You see the throne room covered in snow,
which we saw a couple.
Iron Throne.
Yeah, or ash. We're not.
Oh yeah, I guess.
So that's like we met up with Bran again. Turns out we're still confused of what he's doing. So surprise, surprise. When he gets to that tree, well, I like to see what happens. So now we can touch on who didn't make it into this week's episode before we get into everything that happened at King's Landing. So Dany was MIA again this week, and that makes two weeks in a row.
No, she was in it last week.
Oh yeah, sorry, she was in last week. So
both...
this makes 2 weeks in a row that she hasn't done anything, is what I was going to say, if you let me finish. And I'll reiterate what I said from last week, is that it has shades of season 2, in terms of Dany just not doing anything. She might be in it, but she's just not doing anything. So next week's episode is called Breaker of Chains. So presumably she'll be doing something interesting, I hope. Again, we didn't see Marine again, even though it was in the credits now twice. No Rob, though he was mentioned. No Rob. Rickon.
Rob's dead.
Oh, not Rob. John.
Yeah. Nothing from John or Ygritte, the wildlings either.
Yeah. No Rickon. Again, he was mentioned, but we haven't seen anything from him last episode either. Not that they're doing anything interesting right now. No Arya and the Hound, although we got good stuff with them last week. And still no Littlefinger, which is kind of like, you don't notice it as much, but their chats, like the Littlefinger Varys like conflict, was pretty interesting in the last couple seasons. So I'd like to maybe see him get back involved in some way.
Well, he's gone. They sent him to the Eyrie.
No, I know, but I would like to see him get back involved in the show in some way.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So do we want to get into... We'll touch on King's Landing stuff that happened before the wedding, and then we'll get into the wedding itself.
Yeah.
Does that sound good? So there's like a whole pile of different scenes that happened before and then during, but there's a million character interactions. I want to try to touch on most of them, I think. So the very first scene of the show, of the episode, is actually Tyrion and Jaime, and Pod. This is a nice scene because we haven't actually seen them together, have a scene together since probably maybe the first season.
Yeah.
Which has been a while. You don't think it, you don't notice that these characters haven't interacted for so long that it's like you don't even notice, but then they get back together and you're like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. So he has a nice line about the dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness, about being the 3 kids of Tywin. And Jaime is still obviously struggling with losing his hand, even though
it's cool that they have the most sibling-like relation, like the most normal sibling relationship out of them all. They actually have care about each other. They act like brothers and they help each other.
Yeah, and they have a little bit of mutual respect for one another. And Tyrion offers Bronn as a discreet swordsman, quote unquote, to help him train his left hand, which is a great. We'll go right into that. There's another great scene. And you can't help but love Bronn's dry wit. He just comes down, he's just sitting there, and he makes the whole line about fucking some other knight's wife, who's a screamer, which I laughed out loud at that one. And then we actually see some sword fighting, which we don't get to see a lot of. I mean, we saw some last week, but even if it's just sparring, it's still nice to see some actual action every once in a while. Do you want to have anything to say about the Tyrion and Jaime, or the Jaime and Bronn scenes at all?
No, it's pretty straightforward stuff. Jaime, you can tell that he still has the technique down, but he's going to have a hard time with his left hand. He's never going to be as good as he was. Mm-hmm. And he's frustrated, but he keeps going with it.
And then we get a nice scene with Tyrion and Varys. Just a quick one.
Yeah.
And we get confirmation that Cersei does know about Tyrion and Shay, and that things really need to get moving before someone gets hurt, I guess. Reminding him about Tywin's threats. It's interesting to see Varys clearly use this as a way to get what he was after at the end of season 3 anyway. He pretty much takes this and he's like, listen, you have to do what I was going to do in the first place, and then kind of forces Tyrion's hand in many ways. Even though he says himself, he doesn't have as much power, although he does know how to manipulate people. And
then Tyrion has to go break Shay's heart.
I mean, and speaking of which, Shay is still the worst.
I know.
She's this is the most transparent acting, tough love job I've ever seen, and she's completely oblivious to the fact of what's going on, completely. So. We'll just touch on that right now. he essentially strong arms her and says like, I could never love you, blah blah blah. One of those like cheesy lines.
Like trying too hard to
Yeah.
be full.
And I mean, like, sure, he says some mean things, but like, it's pretty obvious what he's doing, and it's like,
Yeah, you can't make eye contact with
yeah.
her.
So, he sends her away, and essentially offering her the same vacation package that Varys offered her last season, with the ship and servants and house in where is she? She's heading to
I think Pentos.
Pentos. So anyway, like she just so thick-headed, like it drives me up the wall. Unfortunately, so we learn later that Bronn says, "Oh yeah, she's on the boat." I just have the sneaking suspicion that she's not gone yet somehow, and she'll still somehow be around to make things annoying for me. So, I like to see that for sure, but like I don't know. I hope she's actually gone for once, because not like things are going to be much better for him anyway at this point. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So we'll get into the wedding, I guess, at this point, where it starts with gift giving. I guess kind of like a social for the.
Yeah, people give wedding gifts. It's normal.
Mm-hmm. So he's taking gifts. He gets we meet Mace Tyrell for the first time. We haven't seen him on the show yet, and he gives him a handsome cup, as Joffrey put it. Goblet, yeah. So Tyrion offers a book. Is there anything significant about the book other than the Targaryen kings that are name dropped in the?
Well, it's a rare book. I think in the books, what they say is that there's only 5 of them in existence.
Okay,
something like that. So obviously, very expensive, very rare. Something that a good king should read, like they say. Mm-hmm. And Joffrey just, dismisses it because he's a little prick.
Yeah, so he gets... And then we finally see the second of the 2 swords from last week's title. Finally given to him. The Valyrian steel. And promptly uses it to cut Tyrion's book in half. Why did it not cut the table in half, is what I want to know.
It probably cut the table a bit. I don't know.
Okay.
He didn't...
It's like, it's just every time they show anyone use a Valyrian steel, it literally cuts... When they cut the book, it literally cut right in half, like a piece of butter. But whatever. So that scene is significant only because it continues to set Joffrey up as being a little shit that we know he is.
Yeah, that's been hammered right in.
Yeah, like there's literally the scene literally only does 2 things. Sets up that Joffrey's a little shit again, which we knew. And introduces us to Mace Tyrell.
Okay.
And other than that, I can't think of anything. Oh, right. So and also the whole Cersei telling Tywin about Shay, but then becomes moot right after anyway because he sends her away. But either than that, like, is there something I'm missing, Dan? Or you sound?
Well, I think the fact that it's not necessarily something you're missing, but it'll add to stuff later on with your whole murder mystery thing. That the goblet that Mace Tyrell gave him is the one Joffrey was using at the feast.
Was it?
Yeah.
That seemed like a giant goblet.
As well, it's supposed to be, anyways.
Okay, I don't know. I don't think it was in the show. That would be much more interesting if that's the case. I don't think it was. I'd
have to rewatch it.
I didn't notice that. The one that he gives him is huge, right? It's huge.
Okay.
So maybe I missed something. Maybe that the wine was in there at the and it was poured from that goblet. I don't know, but it seems to me like that one that he gave him was like really big. Maybe it'll be touched on again later. If that's the case, that's definitely interesting. So then we move into the wedding ceremony. We've seen about like 10 of these already in this series. So we
never go well.
No, I mean we have a pretty good idea of how the weddings go in Westeros now, with the whole like cloak and like the arm like I don't know what you'd call that, like lace thing around the arms that they do. And so anyway, the only great part of the scene is Sansa's face is just priceless when she like rolls her eyes. It's like I've never seen anyone's like I feel like her eyes were gonna fall out of her head how much she rolled them. And they're like, oh look, we have a new queen. So this is important for my murder mystery as well. So now that she's officially married to the ceremony happened, they are wed. is she now officially queen, or is there some sort of ceremony that she would have to become queen?
No, she's officially queen, and then after Joffrey dies, she's queen regent.
Okay. And what is the regent like?
It's like the queen, like in standing until the king,
Okay.
has a new queen. So the new king now is Tommen.
Tommen would be
Joffrey's younger brother.
Really?
Yeah, that little like
the one they just showed him, just like he was laughing at the. Okay.
They barely mentioned him in the show, but he is technically the heir. Well, Stannis is technically the heir, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah, I guess, but like because of how this is all working, then yeah.
Yeah, so Tommen would be Joffrey's heir. So if he gets married, that person would be the queen.
Pretty young, right? Still,
yeah,
like
he's very young.
Okay. Man, they literally maybe talked about him once or twice on the entire show. In retrospect, so that's I guess, like I was gonna say later, but I guess I can say now, like the whole murder mystery essentially really sets up a lot of intrigue for what's going to happen in King's Landing for the rest of the season, or presumably for the most of it, because we really don't know. This is one of the few murders in the show where it's not just straightforward. We don't know who killed them. We just don't. There's a lot of clues, probably. I mean, and if you're probably really smart,
a lot of misleads too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'll get into that. I have a whole bunch of different ideas, and I'll get into that. So after the reception, they take a long walk. I guess, is that a part of like tradition to the reception?
It's just a party out. Like it's not a big deal.
Okay. But what is important here is that, okay, so Tywin and Olenna are talking, which are those scenes are the best.
Yeah.
They just are like, they're really,
those the two bosses.
Yeah.
Like
they're the heads of each other's families, and they know how to, not necessarily outwit each other, but like they both are intelligent and strong.
Yeah. They're playing the same game, and yeah.
Yeah.
They do have a little bit of mutual respect as well.
I think so.
A lot of mutual disdain as well.
Mm-hmm. So Lady Olenna brings up the Iron Bank for the maybe you just brought it up maybe once or twice before. What is the significance of the Iron Bank?
The Iron Bank is of Braavos, which is across the Narrow Sea.
Okay,
it's a different city. The Crown has borrowed a lot of money from the Iron Bank and a lot of money from the Lannisters.
Okay,
now that the Lannisters are in charge, that I guess
that's their own debt
about that. Yeah, but yeah, they owe a lot of money to the Iron Bank for the past couple wars. And Robert always kind of shooed them off, and so is Joffrey. They don't really deal with them. I think in last season, at one point, there may have been someone who was from the Iron Bank that was trying to see the king or queen or Cersei, and they wouldn't see them. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Either way, yeah, they just won't talk to the Iron Bank. They're just brushing them off, putting it off.
So Lady Olenna kind of reminds them that the Iron Bank always gets what they want.
They have a saying, they always get their due.
Okay. So that's obviously important. Lady Olenna also brings up the fact that she's paying for half the wedding. Not once, twice she does it. Mm-hmm. So what's the significance there? That I guess is it so much the crown is broke, or that the Lannisters don't have as much money as they used to, or
well, the Lannisters still have the crown and the Lannisters. I mean, the crown is pretty broke. The Lannisters have a decent amount of money. The Tyrells are the second most wealthy family.
Okay,
but because it's both their weddings, they're both paying for it, and she thinks it's all a little frivolous, it's all a little ostentatious. There's too much going on for this wedding. It's the most expensive thing that ever happened.
Okay.
Especially in the middle of all these wars.
Makes sense. I mean, but yeah. It has to happen. I mean, like, what are they going to do? Not have a wedding?
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that crazy. You don't have to have millions of...
Yeah, but you also have Joffrey, who's a psychopath, and he's going to want that. So
that's kind of what she's commenting on. Just like she thinks it's a little extravagant.
I think that's actually one of the things that they probably can agree on. Tywin and Olenna can probably both agree. So we get to the reception, and this is where there's a lot of like one-on-ones and one-on-one-on-ones and two-on-one character interactions.
Weird combinations too, like of people that we haven't seen together a lot.
Which is great. And so we're gonna start at the beginning. So Tyrion and Bronn, they arrive. It's a kind of heartfelt moment. He's obviously worried about Shay. He's like asking about her. He's like, she made it to the ship? Like, you swear? Oh yeah. He's like, does he Bronn does he say that he killed someone that was following him, or is... No,
he said that if there had been anybody following him, they would have been killed. So they weren't followed. It's just,
Okay.
And then he consoles him, and then he tells him to go get drunk.
Yeah, he says like, what does he say? Go drunk,
Go
get drink until you feel like you did the right thing.
Yeah,
which is he always has. Sorry,
which is great advice.
Yeah, he always seems to have the right know what to say. I also love seeing Podrick stare at that contortionist. Like he literally could, like he was like couldn't. He almost walked into someone because he couldn't stop like watching. Which is I guess continues building off his whole like horrors thing from a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
Which is I thought was funny, would lighten the mood. Then we have a nice scene with Olenna and Sansa. Olenna offers her condolences to Sansa and invites her to Highgarden. Yeah. Which we've never seen. Where is Highgarden, by the way?
It's in the south. It's kind of, I guess, it would be southwest of King's Landing.
Is it?
There's not much to give you an idea of where it is. It's pretty far away.
Okay. Anyway, so that's it just had to be done. One of these scenes. It's like it's Olenna doing her politicking as she normally does. I think also she does have a somewhat of a heart in her, so I think she does feel bad for the young girl. She does offer a little bit of foreshadowing with her whole killing a man in a wedding remark, which again is very interesting as far as murder mysteries. So Marjorie offers. Then we get Marjorie offering the leftovers of the feast, the wedding feast, to the poor, kind of trying to, I guess, fix some of the problems that Joffrey made by being a dickwad.
Yeah, she was always very charitable, and then now she made sure that she said it was the king's decision. Yeah,
which plays into something that happens a little bit later. But so then we have Loras and Jaime. Loras is giving Oberyn. They're giving each other the bedroom eyes, and they have a nice little exchange. It starts off all quaint, and then Jaime essentially says, "Hey, if you marry Cersei, you're gonna die. Your kid is gonna die. It's not gonna go good for you." And then Loras, who's usually kind of a pushover, gets a nice little jab in at Jaime, which I thought was nice. You don't see a lot of Loras, and I think he's
he's not supposed to be a pushover at all. You have to remember that he's one of the best swordsmen out there.
They never, if that's the case,
they haven't done a good job of that yet. Because Brienne, I guess, beat him, but other than that, he's like he never lost. And then in season 1, he beat the Mountain in the joust.
Oh, that's what
got mad and cut the head off that horse.
Yeah,
they changed the actor, but it's the same character.
Okay, so Loras was a different actor, or the Mountain was a different actor?
Both.
Okay, yeah. Was he even really seen, or was he just under the helmet at most of the time?
He was seen a bit in season 1.
See, that's when they change actors like that. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it's hard, especially because the show is already hard to recognize.
Exactly. Either way, I just like that Loras gets that nice little jab in at Jaime, and who probably now, if that's the case, could probably now beat him at a sword fight.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. They were rivals because they were both considered some of the best. Mm-hmm. Now Jaime knows that he's not.
Brienne, who is actually not bad at her own politicking, comes in and congratulates Joffrey and Marjorie. She doesn't really take well to the little jab that Joffrey gives about Renly, but because she obviously cared for him.
Yeah, Brienne loved Renly.
Yeah.
She thought he would be the best, the only king.
Yeah. So, anyways, they have a nice conversation with Marjorie. Marjorie obviously respects Brienne, which we saw from before. And then we have Cersei approach her afterwards, and they are kind of talking about what really are they talking about? Just kind of like about Jaime, about how getting back to the capital.
Cersei kind of jabs Brienne a few times about being a lady and like that kind of stuff. But then she really is trying to get information about what Jaime was up to while he was gone that whole time because she doesn't trust him. Now we saw last episode that she was kind of mad at him for being gone for so long. She doesn't know what happened. So
with Cersei, for me, this is something that really dawned on me, I guess, in this episode. She just feels so lost. Like I don't know what she did. I can't tell what her motivations are. I don't know what she like. What is she after here? Like I don't.
Well, it's because she's losing control. She's no longer like, as Oberyn points out, which is probably the next one we were going to talk about, that she's no longer Queen Regent. She really has no power at this point. She's just the daughter of Tywin Lannister. That's all she is.
Yeah.
She's losing her control of her children because Joffrey's a mess.
Yeah,
at that point
she doesn't have
Marcella's
gone in Dorne, so
Yep.
But either way, like she just seems to be going from one scene to another, just being like a snide bitch from like everywhere she goes, drinking all the time, and like she just seems lost. And maybe, you know what, maybe that's on purpose, and like you said, it probably is. It's just really hard to get a read on her right now.
She's just trying to like impose her will on people that she can, because she's running out of opportunities to do that.
So one more thing before we get on to Oberyn was that Cersei confronts Grandmaster Pycelle, who's I guess essentially molesting some girl, and tells and like sends him off and tells them to give the leftovers that Marjorie. What?
It's tough, I know.
What's her name again?
Marjorie.
Marjorie promised for the poor, give it to the dogs. So she says the queen is ordering you to do this, she still is obviously trying to hold, like you said, trying to hold on to that power while she can, even though she isn't technically the queen regent anymore. And it just looks like Pycelle is just, afraid. I wouldn't be surprised if Pycelle gets the axe at some point soon. It seems like the former Meister Qyburn is kind of taking his place to some degree.
And Cersei is right that Pycelle is annoying. He's always annoying.
Yeah, I that is true. She did it in a weird way about like your breathing is annoying, your presence is annoying. So this is arguably one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode. The Oberyn, Cersei, and Tywin scene.
Awesome.
So Oberyn does a nice job, gets a jab in at Cersei when he's introducing Alaria Sand to Tywin and Cersei, that was great on its own. And then he makes reference to Marcella, which is another like dig at Cersei, I guess at Tywin as well to some degree. Who we almost never hear about. I guess every once in a while we want to hear, but we've never even seen Dorne, so that's not really a surprise. We also get some Westerosi cultural information, in most of Westeros, there's a lot of disdain towards bastard children, and they all have their different names. Snow in the north and Sand in Dorne. I guess there's other ones.
There's a bunch of other ones. Yeah.
I'm guessing there's some sort of water type one.
Rivers is for people that are in the Riverlands. Okay. Stone is in the mountains. Yeah.
So anyway. In Dorne, apparently that's not the case. They embrace them more as a regular part of society.
Dorne's probably like the most distinct of the Seven Kingdoms. The North is to an extent, but Dorne is more different than anybody else, for sure. And they have plenty of bastards, and they're all like, even Alaria Sand, she's a bastard, and she's Oberyn's paramour. It's not his wife. It's just a girl that he hangs out with.
It's like, are you guys seeing each other? It's like, no.
It's a girl that he loves, but it's not quite the same as having a marriage,
Yeah. So he's also we already heard about this last week, why he's there, why he dislikes the Lannisters. So he's very upfront about this, even to Tywin, who's obviously the most powerful of the Lannisters, arguably. Yeah. So he's like, he makes that reference about raping and killing, I guess, his niece again, right to his face. Not afraid about that. So again, this also plays into the whole murder mystery thing.
It is. It's a threat. It's him showing Tywin that he remembers. He wants to make sure that his presence is known, that Tywin knows they haven't forgotten what happened to Elia, and also reminding Cersei of where her daughter is. That she's not a prisoner, but she
she might as well be.
Yeah.
She could be at any time. It's like when Sansa was kind of essentially a prisoner, but not.
Yeah.
So that moves into the very distasteful show by Joffrey with the dwarves to reenact the War of Five Kings. So this is where things start really start picking up and get interesting. People are very uncomfortable during the scene. Loras gets up and leaves, which again is another thing to just keep note of. I've made a lot of notes. Okay. So the scene itself it's just building people's to be uncomfortable. Like that's really nothing else going on there. But then it ends.
Well, and Joffrey's being a drunken prick.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again,
he's drunk this time. He's never been drunk before, but that's about it.
So we get to the yeah. So essentially, we get more of him being a dick, which is again not a surprise. But what's really, to me, what is really important to me is that people are visibly uncomfortable with what's going on. Tyrion obviously says, give them 20 pieces each. And then the line that's like very, very interesting is we'll find another way to thank the king.
Yeah.
So Tyrion is then called out after it comes to an end. He gets the wine poured on his head, and then it starts picking up even more. So he appoints Joffrey appoints Tyrion his cupbearer. Drops his goblet, kicks it away, essentially just being like the most
obnoxious.
You could like just evil as far as you can. And you see Sansa obviously help Tyrion a little bit, which is a nice little move. And then obviously no one's speaking. Tension's very high. We get to the point where he's telling Tyrion to kneel. We think things are coming to a head here, but it's kind of broken off early when Marjorie says, "Oh, look, the pie." So
it gives you a little bit of a break, but then Joffrey hasn't forgotten what was going on, and as Tyrion's trying to leave, he calls him back.
Yeah, so we have like he he chops the pie or whatever, cuts the cake essentially, kills a few doves in the process, which I think was a how would you?
I'm not sure. That was a weird little
foreshadowing.
I don't know if it's foreshadowing. It was just a quick little shot of some dead doves, but I don't know.
Or maybe it's just what's the word I'm looking for? Symbolism, maybe. That they just wanted to throw in there. Although it seems like every shot has a purpose in Game of Thrones, so I'd like...
It does. I know. I have to rewatch this.
I paused it. I was like, okay. I wasn't sure what they showed that for. I paused it. I was like, oh, okay, so it's some dead doves. I'm not sure what is that. Is that a... what does that mean? Is that a bad... is that bad luck in Westeros? I don't know. So anyway, so he does, like you said, he doesn't let Tyrion leave. He's trying to leave with Sansa. Which again, it's like all these different actions are all playing together to create this mystery, like I said. So that's another one that probably goes against Tyrion, right? Yes. So he gives him the wine. So he doesn't let Tyrion leave, but has him refill his goblet and give him the wine for his while he's eating the pie. Then this is when he starts coughing. That's when it's like, oh shit. Okay, at first you're like, oh, he just had coughing, and then you're like, oh shit, like this isn't just like this isn't just him coughing. So interesting here is seeing Olenna call for help twice. Not even in the most like heated moments, doesn't forget like what to say and what not to say, right? I think she
usually has her cool.
I think she's very much aware of what the effect of Joffrey's death would have on her house. Either positively or negatively, it's you can't tell at that point. But that's something you have to say at that when the king is choking. So we get a great shot of Tyrion picking up the goblet as he's choking to death. Cersei is like holding him. You see him picking up the goblet, and the camera kind of skews to the right, like a little bit like kind of like you see in like a murder, like a horror movie every once in a while, and it gives you like a uneasy feeling, and it's like having you question what, like, more obviously than what's going on like as it's happening. You know that he's dying, right? And you're already questioning what's going on. But this is like, is it like he puts the frame right on Tyrion, followed right obviously by Cersei freaking out, obviously, and telling him that it's obviously that, taking him into custody. So we end with him dying, kind of like holding out for his mom. Again, we talked about this at the beginning. We didn't really find it to be sad in any way. I think everyone kind of wanted him dead in the first place. So
absolutely,
it's like, it's about time that someone who's on the, like, the chopping block is someone we actually wanted dead for once.
Yeah, that's actually twice this season. Last episode was Polliver. That's one off of Arya's list, and then now Joffrey. Like two bad guys that actually got their comeuppance.
Yeah.
So it rarely happens.
Yeah, well, apparently it's the fourth season. We've only got two. So we have we end with a very chilling, kind of creepy version of the Reigns of Castamere. They love that song, playing over the credits. So I want to.
What are your theories?
I'm going to go into my theories. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to reiterate this. What I said earlier is that this death is interesting for a couple of reasons. It wasn't straightforward. Head wasn't chopped off. There wasn't a knife. He just died. We don't know how. Is also almost everyone in Westeros wanted to see Joffrey dead. I think there was very few people who were on his side, and this only creates a million different suspects as to who or how it could have been done.
Everybody had motive,
and really sets the stage for, like I said, that intrigue in King's Landing for the rest of, or presumably for a majority of the season.
Yeah.
So my first, I guess 5 different takes on it. So first one, in no particular order about or which ones I think is the most right or whatever, is that Tyrion did in fact poison Joffrey.
Okay.
But this one has a little bit of holes so for those who are like, okay, so for sure he did it, though for me, it's unlikely because he poured the wine from his own table into the goblet. He was also drinking that wine. Okay. When would he have poisoned it? He's up front sitting at that table the whole time. There's no way he's sitting in front of everyone. When would he have been able to do it? If you're going off of what happened earlier with him and like the whole wine poured on his head and the insults and all that stuff, then it would seem more like a crime of passion and wanting to have him killed then and there, not something he would have premeditated, right? In which case,
that's been happening all.
Sure, but this one it really came to a head there, right?
Yeah.
So it's unlikely to me that he would be carrying around poison with him. You know, if that is how he died, which seems like he was poisoned, right?
Yeah.
So it seems unlikely that he would be carrying that around. So was that his plan? I don't know. It's like that's right. That's what I mean. Like it's got some holes in it. Unfortunately, because he was the last person to give him the cup before he died, and he was obviously one taken into custody, the spotlight's on him. It's up to him to prove that he didn't do it, not that for them to prove that he did, you know?
Yeah.
Not that there's not much of a trial system in in Westeros. So, second of all, it's that the Tyrells were responsible. So this one was based solely on the fact that if Marjorie was queen, so I asked you that earlier, the fact that she is queen for sure, and now the queen regent in this case, it makes sense, I guess, to get rid of Joffrey to some degree. For it does kind of hurt your position as far as power for like a long standing, but you know that Joffrey's an evil son of a bitch. If you are, we know that Olenna doesn't like Joffrey. Knows that. They've said it out loud.
We were asking for a lot of information about him.
So it could be plausible that they had planned the murder, and they have motive as well as the means. I think they were responsible for the food, right? So they could have gotten to the wine and to the food to poison it, right? Say, what else do we have on that one? When would they have? Like I said, they would have poisoned it when they were bringing it out, everything, I guess. But then why did no one else get sick? Then it's like, well, then was it really the cup? You brought up earlier that the goblet that he was using was in the book the same one as the one he was given for his as a gift. So I'm not sure if that's the case in this or not. It's hard to tell. But you also have Loras leaving early. You get the impression it's because he's insulted by the whatever's happening with the.
Well, it's because of their depiction of Renly, right?
So, but that also could mean that he knew what was coming and left early because he didn't want to be involved. There's a lot of different facets here. Obviously, we have Oberyn and the Martells, so we know that they sent the second prince instead of the first. having sent the second one, if he was the one who did it and he was caught, you could presumably plead. I guess like you didn't know. It was like pleaded you had no idea what was going on, and your house isn't affected in any way, right?
Yeah.
So he was maybe the one responsible. Maybe it wasn't the Martells as as a family, or maybe it was just Oberyn himself. But I guess, like I said, they for sure have the motive, but then he doesn't have so much the means. How did he get access to the wine? Then was it, if it was them, then how did he do it? And if it wasn't the wine, what was the cause? You know, there's a lot of things. It's like, it makes, at first blush, it's like, yeah, it was for sure the wine that did it. But maybe it was a combination of his wine and the pie or something, you know, that we don't know yet. They're just saying this. If it isn't the wine, the web just gets even more complex. So then you have Sir Dantos' involvement, the fool. He for sure has motive. He was probably had access to the wine, so he has means. He tells Sansa, and you know what? No. He's absolutely involved in some way, because he tells Sansa that he needs to leave before it's clear that Joffrey's going to die. When he tells Sansa, you need, like, essentially the "come with me if you want to live"
Yep.
line, that he's still only kind of choking, and it's not clear to anyone there other than the people who were the ones who committed the murder that he was about to die. So he was involved. He knew something for sure. I don't know if he was, a sole actor, or he was involved in it with like a larger conspiracy. It's hard to tell. But it also doesn't look good for Sansa having her leave with him if that's happening, right? So that'll be interesting to how it plays out. And finally, I'll end with this one. So Melisandre last season did that thing with the leeches, right? And she essentially hexed some of the other kings in the War of Five Kings. So she hexed Robb, and she hexed Joffrey, and there was at least one other one.
And Balon Greyjoy.
And Balon Greyjoy. So that is now 2 of 3 in short order that have now died since that's happened. And we know that magic has power in this world. We know that. It's just hard at this point to say if it played a role in shaping these events. Like, with the Red Wedding, that, those gears might have been in motion a little earlier. We don't know. But, he died shortly after. Now Joffrey's dead, similar fashion, both at a wedding. It's like, so it doesn't seem, it's too much of a coincidence to ignore is really what I'm getting at. I think at this point it's too early to really know. I mean, for the book readers, they know. And they probably really enjoyed seeing the little hints at what it was that. But I have no idea. I mean, I think I've probably picked out a lot of the different things that could be construed as hints or misdirections. Like I said, I have 5 different theories, 4 of which are people who were at the wedding, right? So, what do you think? I know you already know what's going to happen, but what do you think of my
without
theories?
Spoiling anything, like I mean, they're all valid theories. The whole point, it's supposed to be a big murder mystery. It'll be like this for a while. You're not going to have any solid answers right next episode. And they purposefully did make it seem like it could have been a couple people. One that you missed that my sister mentioned actually was that Pycelle was sent down to the kitchens, and he is the Grand Maester. He has all those potions and poisons and stuff like that. And he was obviously mad at Cersei, and he knows that Joffrey's a monster. I don't know. He's also been very loyal to the Lannister family, and he doesn't have as much motive as some of the rest.
Yeah,
there was that there. Joffrey's the only person who had a piece of the pie.
I was wondering that too. I was thinking, so it's like, I wasn't sure, because it looked like he was being fed by Marjorie, right?
Yeah.
Was he absolutely the only one who had a slice? There's no one else?
That's the only one you see. He cuts the cake himself, and then Marjorie's feeding him the first slice.
But so you can call back to that the dead doves, right?
Yeah.
So one of them for sure was cut by the sword when he cut it. The other one is not clear if that's the case. Was there a dead dove in there that maybe ate the pie and died because it was poison? I mean, that is very, very, very possible.
It was a really, really quick shot. It's hard to see.
I mean, I can go back. I looked at it again. I know for sure one was cut. It had like a red neck. It was cut like right where the slice was. But the other one wasn't. I know there was more than one, and the other one wasn't clear. and like we said, there's no shot in Game of Thrones that doesn't have importance,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Um, Other than that, a couple others that I had heard were somebody actually said Tywin Lannister because he knows obviously Joffrey's a monster. Joffrey's out of control.
I didn't
That
consider that.
gets rid of Joffrey, but that still puts a Lannister on the throne. That's Tommen's throne, and that also kind of gets rid of the Tyrells because they can have Tommen marry someone else, so the Tyrells don't have as much power.
That's true. Like I said, I didn't take into account the fact that the Lannisters might have done it themselves.
Yeah.
And you know what? It does make a lot of sense. I mean, we know that Tywin's a smart guy. He knows that he could easily frame anyone he wanted if there's with this type of murder, right? So if it was him, it makes sense. That's the problem. All these people make sense, and it's most likely that it wasn't one person acting solely on their own, which is probably going to make it even more confusing.
Another thing the show did, and it's a small thing, but they showed a lot of tracking shots of Varys just kind of looking not happy and like kind of suspicious at the feast. I don't know why. A lot of him though. He wasn't a huge part of the episode, but they showed him a lot.
They did, yeah. He seemed to have he looked nervous a little bit.
Yeah.
So
he wasn't enjoying himself at the wedding. He was just sitting at the table quietly and just like looking around.
Again, there's just too many. There's just too many to figure out. I mean, so do we want to give, I guess, some final thoughts as terms of what we thought of this episode as a whole?
Well, I mean, as a whole, it's a great episode. It sets a lot of stuff up. Obviously, it was a big ending, but the main things that it sets up are that Tyrion's being blamed, whether he did it or not.
Mm-hmm.
He's being blamed. Sansa's gone somewhere. Mm-hmm. Who knows how what's happening there? What else? That's kind of the main stuff that happened in this episode. Ramsay's supposed to go take Moat Cailin, and Bran has visions when he touches trees.
Yeah, it's like I liked it. I like the fact that this show is so good at subverting your expectations. The fact that they would kill off Joffrey in episode 2, to me, is means so much. It's like they're not afraid to save big events just until, I mean, and they said this earlier, that they weren't saving just all the big events until episode 9, like they normally do. Although I do appreciate that they haven't put out the name for episode 9 and 10's, they haven't put out the titles for those episodes yet. So those are still a secret, which is nice, because for sure they for sure probably would allow you to speculate. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I didn't really enjoy Shay, as I normally don't.
And the stuff with Stannis and them was kind of...
Yes, it seemed kind of superfluous. I mean, I would have liked them to pick up on the whole, hey, there's a really big, important thing going on in the north, but we're not going to talk about it. I don't understand that. That's kind of odd. I like to see Dany actually do something, so not seeing her in this episode it was understandable because of the importance of what happened here, and might have taken away from that. So next week, like we said, the episode's called Breaker of Chains. That's one of her nicknames. So, like I said, presumably she'll actually be doing something. Yeah. Is really coming into the season, I was a little worried. Coming out of the Red Wedding, things felt different, a little bit of there wasn't as clear direction as far as who and what was going on. You had some idea what was going on in the north, a little bit more black and white, and across with Dany, it was a little bit just sure, just keep on going with what you're doing. But then as far as everything else, it's still a bit more murky. Mm-hmm. But now with the events of this happening, even just in the episode 2, we only languished in that world of uncertainty for 2 episodes. Season 3, episode 10, season 4, episode 1, and that's it. Now we're into this who killed the king. We know what's going on in the north. We have people hunting the young Starks. We know what's going on at the Wall. Again, with Dany. We already touched on that.
But you know that she's heading to Marine. Yeah. That's a bit right now.
But we don't know. She came to a city last season too, and we know how that. She came to 2 cities last season, and we know how those ended up. So it's great. Sure. I mean, you can probably expect the unexpected with that. I mean, you should, I guess, with the show. If you don't by now, I don't know what you're watching. But I just like that we have a new sense of purpose for once. Not for once, but again, that we kind of had when we were following Rob, and we had hurrah for revenge and stuff like that. Exactly. So Other than that, yeah, I think that pretty much, and that's like almost exactly 1 hour of a podcast. So
Perfect.
that pretty much covers everything. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. Check out Dan's written reviews at the website, www.towerofbabblepodcast.com. That's BABBLE podcast.com. I also have a few written pieces, not Game of Thrones related, but still interesting. Make sure to listen to our flagship podcast, the Tower of Babble podcast. If you're interested in Game of Thrones, you'll probably be interested in a lot of other stuff. So that's every 2 weeks. We do one of those on a Monday every 2 weeks. So next Monday we'll have another one. And other than that, yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Today's Game of Thrones theme was performed by the Harp Twins, Camille and Kennerly. You can find them at youtube.com/Camille and Kennerly.